I want to talk about preparing your house to sell this spring. That's where we're having a lot of conversations with people right now about putting their home on the market. It's prime time for people to start having those conversations, which is interesting, but it's just kind of the way it is. Sellers, when they initially contact a real estate agent, their lifespan of sorts from the time they make initial contact until the time they're ready to put their home on the market is very short. Usually they're calling people because they're like, hey, we'd like for you to come over, give us a price on our house, tell us what you're going to do to market it. And if it sounds good, then we're ready to list the house. And that's great. And don't get me wrong, I love those phone calls. Those are some of my favorite phone calls. That's like Christmas every day. But I would encourage sellers that are thinking about selling to give yourself a little more time. And so why would you do that? What is the benefit of doing that? So when people work with me and we help them sell their house, and it's going to be dependent upon the house and their situation and whether they're staying local or not as far as some of our incentives are concerned. If someone's selling and buying a house here in Charleston, we have 2 transactions, we're going to pay for your moving expenses. We want that to be an incentive to working with our team that helps save you money. For those of them for those folks that are getting ready to put their home on the market, please, 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 please call me before you start doing a bunch of work to your property. I want to be able to give you my advice and counsel on what to do and what not to do to prepare your home for sale. I can't tell you the number of times I've had a seller call me and all the work has already been done. And don't get me wrong, the properties will look great, but they've gone overboard or they've spent more money on certain things than I could have gotten that project done for. So rely on people like me that have experience and relationships that can save you money and time and stress and resources. So when we look at a property and we're walking through it, the question always comes up of, hey, what should I do to my house to prepare it for sale? And for a long time, I would just act as the stager and designer and decorator. And I'd roll up my sleeves and I'd move stuff around. I mean, I remember specifically this one condo downtown that I went in and I said, if you'll give me about 4 hours, I'll have this place whipped into shape. But you got to give me, free reign to kind of move things around if that's okay with you. She said, that's fine. It's a second home. We don't. It's not like we even live here. And I took out a pretty considerable amount of stuff in that condo, rearranged some furniture, moved rugs, moved all kinds of stuff, quite frankly. And she walked in and she goes, wow, Brian, I hate to say this, but I'm actually considering keeping it because you've helped me fall back in love with this property. Ultimately, we sold it. Had she chosen to keep it, that would have been fine. It would have been a nice little pat on the back. But the point is, there is a certain number of things that you can do to prepare your home to sell it that will help it sell faster and potentially for more money. Some of these statistics that people like to rely on, a staged home sells for 10% more money. I really have a tough time with that one. I still haven't really seen data that truly supports that because a lot of it is opinion-based by real estate agents. I don't know if there's been a study, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you're a stager and you're listening to this show, please let me know. I'd love to see the data. But my guess is that it's still going to be based on the opinion of real estate agents in terms of, how much more money a staged home could sell for versus a home that's vacant. And we have some workarounds to that. Virtual staging, as an example, has come a long way. When we virtually stage a vacant property, you can't tell that those pieces of furniture and art and rugs were photoshopped in. You really can't. It's incredible. We even did a little test on our Facebook page to say, hey, which one of these are virtually staged? And everybody's saying, oh, this one is, or that one is, and this one is, and that one is. They were all virtually staged. They couldn't tell. So, there have been some incredible advances there. But when you're preparing your home for sale, one of the things that I really stress, especially if you've lived in your home a while, is to get a pre-listing home inspection. We can focus on the aesthetics, right? I'll have, and that's part of an incentive as well. We will have a professional designer and decorator walk through your property and tell you room by room, this is what you should do. This is what you should not do. This is what you could do. And you walk away with a list. And, people love it. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to do all this stuff. Isn't it a seller's market? Can't I just put it on the market and it'll sell? Well, yeah, maybe. or it could be one of those properties that sits. And we want to use every tool at our disposal to help you sell your house quickly and for the most amount of money possible. So we love bringing our designer and decorator in there because I have yet to list a property that she's walked through that I have not sold. True story. We want to turn your house into, a product of sorts that speaks to as many people as possible using the natural elements of your house. So that works really well. The pre-listing home inspection, I want to stay on that for just a second because that has been a huge help for us, because the primary role in doing that is to uncover things that might be wrong with your house that you are unaware of. So when we do our pre-listing home inspection, we have an inspector go through and we find things. Let's say that there's a pretty long list of things that need to be done, which is not uncommon. And we see that pretty often. And of course, it's everything from, this door rubs against the door jamb, or this door doesn't close all the way because the strike and latch plane aren't matched up, or this toilet's a little wobbly, to more serious things like, hey, you've got some rotten wood in your crawl space. You've got ductwork that is deteriorating. You have an HVAC issue. Your hot water heater needs to be replaced. All these things can result in big ticket expenses in the middle of a transaction. And the scary thing for that is that people aren't building enough contingency for those things that might arise in a home inspection. I'd rather get that information up front and then have very clear expectations financially as to what the impact of those findings will be on the overall sales process. The other benefit to that is that if we identify these things before a buyer does, then we get to control who we hire and how much we pay people to fix them. This is huge. This is one of the ways we save people a lot of money. Because if a buyer's contractor walks through the property and the buyer who does this so often says, you know what, rather than you doing a bunch of the work, just give us a credit for the work. Give us a $5,000 credit or whatever it is. Well, that $5,000 that was quoted by the buyer's contractor, maybe that work can be done for $2,000 or $2,500. The problem is we are now allowing the buyer and their contractor to dictate what that cost is going to be. And the challenge is most buyers don't know how much things cost. They really don't. Most agents, quite honestly, struggle with knowing how much things cost, because if they haven't renovated properties or if they haven't been through this process a bunch to then gain the experience and understanding of how much things cost, then they're not as well equipped to advise you as somebody that, like me, I've spent millions of dollars of my own money renovating and flipping and fixing up property. I know how much things cost. So I can advise people on what we're looking at here. And of course, we back that up by quotes from actual professionals, but I can give them very, very close ballparks. And that's important because if we need a certain amount of money out of the sale of the property in order to go and buy something else, and then we get hit with a home inspection with several thousands of dollars worth of stuff that need to be fixed, and let's say the buyer doesn't want a credit, they want that work to be done. Well, then we've got to outlay the cash to get those repairs made, which might impact things like your down payment or your ability to pay a down payment and closing costs. Or maybe now you're buying a house that you have enough money to buy regardless, but now you can't fix it up like you wanted to before you move in. There's so many different impacts to the buyer and to the seller here that it makes sense for you to have somebody walk through your property and identify those things so that you have knowledge of them, so that people can't take advantage of you financially when it comes time for them to negotiate a deal. And what we're seeing a lot of, and what we've seen a lot of for the past several years, is that these buyers will essentially give sellers very close to their asking price, but then as soon as that home inspection comes up, they will beat them up over that home inspection. And they'll want everything on that list fixed. Because think about it. Now that seller is mentally, emotionally, and in some cases physically committed to moving. Stuff's being boxed up. Arrangements are being made to move into some new place, whether it's to buy or to rent. And what the buyers are hopeful of is that they've caught you in a position where you're now kind of between a rock and a hard place, because it would be too costly or too risky for you to play hardball with that buyer over repairs, over a few $1,000s, because then you'd have to start the process all over again. So it's kind of like the buyer thinking in their back of their mind, like, I got you now. And a lot of sellers, if you're caught in that position, maybe it does make sense. I mean, I kind of hate to say it, but maybe it does make sense for you to say, all right, well, let's just get it done. Let's just do it, because I don't know if I can get a good offer like the one that I've gotten now again, or get one soon. And I'd rather just be done with the process. And that's the point that's where a really good agent can help save you money, because for the sellers to say, I don't want to deal with it, whatever, fine, I'll pay a few extra $1,000s to just get this deal done. Had we done those things up front, and had we been given a little more time to account for those things, we could have saved you thousands of dollars. So give your agent a little time to walk you through the process, to do things the right way, to put your best foot forward, to have a very clear understanding of the financial impact of your decision to sell and buy something, with very clear expectations. And I promise you that will be a smoother transaction, and you will like your real estate agent a whole lot more if you just let us help you a little bit in the preparation phase before you decide to sell your house. So if you'd like my help with that, or if you want more information on what to do to prepare your home for sale, I do have a free guide that I've written personally. It's called 90 Things to Do to Sell Your Home for Top Dollar in Any Market. And so if you'd like a copy of that, either call or text me, 843-400-8009. In fact, if you want to text me, just text the word guide to 843-400-8009. Or you can go on my website, listingsincharleston.com, and contact me through that. Or, of course, send me an email, Brian@BrianBeattyTeam.com. So stick around.